Hey guys, this is Heroic Flamingo and welcome to my Guild Wars 2 class guide for the Thief. In this video I'm going to be looking at all of the weapons that a Thief can use, as well as the individual weapon skills. I'll then be looking at the healing, utility and elite skills it has at its disposal. Then we'll be looking at the unique profession mechanics, and then we'll be moving on to the individual specializations and the traits within them, so we can see how you can make yourself even more powerful. So if you're interested in playing as a Thief, or if you already are and you want to know more, strap in and we'll get started right now. Okay, so before we go into the detail, I just want to give you a quick profession overview for the Thief. So the Thief is one of Guild Wars 2's adventurer professions, and therefore wears medium armour. Experts at stealth and surprise, thieves move through the shadows, vanish into thin air, or steal items from their opponents and use them as weapons. Thieves practice an agile, acrobatic fighting style, which makes them very hard to hit. So basically, thieves are your rogues, they're your assassins, they're your sneaky dagger wielding class that you're probably used to in other MMOs. They do have a bit more of a range capability than maybe in other games, but they still specialise in close range, dual daggers, hard hitting but also quite squishy, so you've got to evade, shadow step, go invisible, and basically try not to get hit so much, and they've got lots of skills which allow you to do that. They've got a lot of pretty cool unique abilities like dual wield attacks and stuff like that, which we're going through in this video. So the first thing I want to start with is the weapon skills. Alright, so the first thing I want to have a look at are the Thieves' weapon skills. So I have here all of the weapons that the base Thief can use. I'm going to equip them one by one, and then I'm going to have a look at each of the individual weapon skills to see what they do. So I'm going to start with the short bow. So this is a two-handed ranged weapon, so that's obviously going to be all 5 of our weapon skills. I'm going to go into more detail in the profession mechanics part of the video, but just so you know, when I'm showing you the weapon skills, I'll be talking about the initiative cost rather than cooldown, because thieves work differently. They have this finite resource called initiative, and each of their weapon skills will use that up. So instead of saying the cooldown, I will just say how much initiative it costs. And obviously if you don't understand that, just wait till you get to the profession mechanics part of this video and I'll explain that in detail. Okay, so on the short bow, our number 1 is trick shot. So fire an arrow that bounces between nearby foes and deals increased damage to poisoned enemies. Each of your number 1 abilities, you'll see, does have a second ability there, which is a stealth attack. So that's if you use your number 1 ability while you're in stealth. It has normally a more powerful effect, so that's pretty cool. I'll just show off the first one, but I will read the second one to you. So the first one, yeah, we're going to fire an arrow. It's going to bounce between foes, do increased damage to poisoned enemies. So you're probably going to want to use this after using a poison ability. It's going to bounce up to 3 times, and you can do it for 900 range, so pretty long range. And if you're attacking from stealth, you're going to shoot an arrow that immobilizes your foe, so that's pretty cool. Let's give trick shot a go then. So I can do it from relatively long range, and as you can see, bang, bang, bang. Bounces between all these guys here, so it's got a nice radius that it does from there, so that's pretty cool. So it's going to hit all of the enemies there, and if you've done a poison effect on them, then it's going to do a bit more damage as well, so that's really cool. Our number 2 ability on the short bow is cluster bomb, which has an initiative cost of 3. Fire a cluster bomb at the target area, detonate in midair for multiple explosions. Okay, so we're going to shoot this out. It's going to be a ground target ability. It's going to do a large explosion, hit up to 5 enemies in a 240 radius, and it's going to make them bleed as well. But if I press my number 2 again while the shot is in midair, it's going to detonate for multiple explosions. So let's try both of these out. So if I just drop it on this guy's head, boom, as you see, it's quite a looping thing, does a nice bit of damage to 5 enemies in that target and bleeds them as well. If I want to press that in midair, look, bam, it's going to explode on the way, and it's going to sort of shoot out and damage more enemies, and you know, do a bit of bleeding as well, so that's cool. Just a couple of different ways you can use that skill. Your number 3 ability is disabling shot, which costs 5 initiative. Leap away from your foe while firing a crippling shot. Okay, so this is going to move away from the enemy. You're going to evade for half a second. You're going to do damage to the enemy, and you're going to cripple them for a couple of seconds. So it allows you to move away from the enemy, dodge any attacks, and also stop them from getting to you by crippling them as well. So it's quite good to make some space between you and the enemy. So you can do it from 900 range, but you probably do it when you're a bit closer, because you want to get away from them. So let's have a look at what this looks like. So there you go. So I jump back, they're crippled, get a bit of space between us while evading attacks. So so that's really cool there. Number 4 is choking gas, which costs 7 initiative. Fire an arrow that dazes enemies on impact and poisons the target area. Okay, so another ground targeted ability, so it's going to do damage to up to 5 targets in a radius of 240. It's going to daze them on impact, and it's going to poison all enemies in that target area as well, which is cool. It's going to have a field which lasts for 3 seconds and pulses 4 times, putting poison on all enemies in the area. So let's try this out on this guy over here. Boom, there you go. So poison, everyone in that area is going to be poisoned. Initial damage as well as stacks of poison there, so damage over time as well. So that's really cool. And our 5th and final ability on the short bow is Infiltrator's Arrow, which costs 8 initiative. Fire an arrow and shadow step to the target area, blinding nearby foes. Okay, so you're going to, it's a ground target ability. You can do it from 900 range. You're going to fire an arrow and shadow step to the area that you've marked on the floor and blind any enemies around you. So if you're using this weapon and then maybe you're going to switch to a melee weapon, this might be a good way to enter it, so you can shoot yourself towards them pretty much, blind them, and then you can quickly switch to your melee weapon and do a bunch of damage to them from melee range while they're blinded. So let's try this out on this guy here. Boom, there you go. As you can see, blinds the enemies in that area, shoots yourself towards them. Basically you're shooting yourself in an arrow, so that's really cool. Yeah, and that's really awesome there, so you could maybe use that to your advantage as well. Okay, so now I've equipped the main hand dagger. So this will be our 1, 2 and 3 abilities. I'll look at the dual attack abilities in the profession mechanics section. Those are the ones that replace your third ability when you're dual wielding, so ignore that for now. I'm just going to show you the base 1, 2 and 3 abilities for the main hand dagger here. So our number 1 ability is a chain ability. So these need to be done one after the other to have the ultimate effect. So we've got double strike, wild strike and lotus strike. So the first one, strike your foe twice, so you can hit up to 2 targets from melee range and do a decent amount of damage. Second one, strike your foe again, gain endurance with a successful strike. So this one does a little bit more damage. 2 targets again, and it gains 10 endurance as well. And on the final strike, strike your foe and inflict poison. So you're going to do a bigger amount of damage to up to 2 targets from melee range, inflicting poison as well. And then the stealth attack from this one is backstab, which attacks your foe from the shadows, striking for double damage if you hit from behind. So that's if you were attacking from stealth, which we're not, but I thought I'd just read that to you anyway. So let's try out this chain ability here. Okay. Bang, bang, bang. There you go. So it's strike. So what was it? So you're going to strike, double strike, and then you're going to strike again. And on the third strike, you're going to inflict poison on the enemy. So strike, 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 and final strike there. And as you can see, if you do that a lot, you'll be stacking up poison on the enemy there to initial damage, and then obviously damage over time with the poison. So that's awesome. Our second ability is Heart Seeker, which costs 3 initiative. Leap and strike your foe. The less health your target has, the more damage you cause. So this is a bit of a finisher here. So the less health they have, the more damage. So if they're above 50% health, it does a certain amount of damage. If they're below 50%, it does more, and then below 25%, it does the maximum amount of damage for this skill. It can be done from 450 range, so sort of close to mid-range, so you can jump at the enemy and attack them. So if I try it from here, boom, you can see it jumps and it hits, and he was on relatively low health, so it does decent damage, but if he was less than 25% health, it'd do even more. Our number 3 ability is Twisting Fangs, which costs 4 initiative. Spin in place, hitting nearby foes. Each hit causes bleeding. Okay, so it's going to be from close range, going to hit up to 3 targets. We're going to spin, do damage, and cause bleeding. So let's try this out. Alright, really cool. So it spins there, hits them, and does bleeding. So there you go. So quite a lot of damage there, and stacks up bleeding up to do some damage over time to finish them off as well, as you can see there. Alright, so now we've got the main hand pistol equipped. So let's have a look at these 1, 2 and 3 skills here. So our number 1 skill is Vital Shot, which is bleed your foe with a shot to the vitals. So it's going to do a decent amount of damage from quite long range, so 900 range, so we can stand back and do this. So decent damage, and it's going to inflict bleeding on the enemy as well. The stealth attack on this one is sneak attack with rapid fire from your pistol and make your foe bleed. So if you're in stealth, it's going to be even better because it's going to shoot 5 times and do 5 stacks of bleeding on the enemy. So let's try out Vital Shot now. There you go. So you can see you can do it from quite far away. It's basically just a basic shot. It's going to inflict bleeding. As you can see, the more you do it, the more it stacks the bleeding up as well. So that's awesome. Alright, so our number 2 ability is a Bowler Shot, which costs 4 initiative. Fire a set of immobilizing bowlers at your foe. So this is going to do damage, it's going to inflict vulnerability, and it's going to immobilize the enemy. And this is from 900 range. You can do it from pretty far away. But if they're coming towards you, this might be a good one to keep them away from you while you continue to use your range abilities. So let's try this out. There you go, so you shoot that, and as you can see, vulnerability and immobilization, which means they can't move for a couple of seconds as well, so that's really awesome. Third one is Repeater, which costs 2 initiative. Blast your foe with rapid fire from your pistol. So this one's going to be 5 shots and 5 stacks of bleeding from 900 range. So let's try this out on this guy now. Nice, and as you can see, ones like that, even though you're sort of channeling it, you can move while you do it as well. So, and obviously because it's not got a cooldown, you can use it. You just have to make sure you manage your initiative. So that's really awesome there. Quite a few cool skills to look at. Okay, so now we've equipped the main hand sword. So we've got 3 new weapon abilities to look at here. So our first one is a chain ability, and it's Slice, Slash, and Crippling Strike. So the first one is going to do damage, and it's going to hit up to 3 targets within melee range. The second one is going to do the same again, so same damage and up to 3 targets. And then the third one is cripple your foe with a final strike. So you're going to hit them one final time. It's going to do a lot more damage than the first ones. It's going to cripple enemies, and it's going to put weakness on them as well. This one also hits up to 3 targets. And the stealth ability on this one is blind your foe by bashing them with your sword hilt, daze them instead if you attack from behind, and applies vulnerability. So that's blindness, vulnerability, and daze, and that's if you attack them with your number 1 ability while in stealth. So let's have a look at the chain now. Slice, Slash, and Crippling Strike. So let's have a look. Slice, Slash, Crippling Strike. As you can see on the final one, weakness and cripple. So bang, bang, and stab. Okay, nice one. Our number 2 ability on the sword is Infiltrator's Strike, and this costs 3 initiative. Shadow step to a foe and strike them. Use Shadow Return to Shadow Step back and cure 1 condition. Okay, so this one we can Shadow Step to the enemy, so we can do it from 900 range, so from quite far away. We're going to Shadow Step, which basically means teleport to the enemy. It's going to do damage to them, immobilize them, and grant us swiftness. Once we use that, we can press the button again to use Shadow Return to Shadow Step back and cure 1 of our conditions. So let's try this out now. So Shadow Step, and then within a few seconds use that, and you can move back, which is get away from them and cure a condition as well. But just by moving close to them, Shadow Step into them, you're going to immobilize them as well. So that's a pretty cool skill there. Also does damage to a few targets, as you can see. Does hit them, and then you can escape again and maybe switch to a ranged weapon or something like that. Your third ability is Stab. Literally just stab, and this costs 4 initiative apparently. This is Stab your foe. Does a bit of damage, hits up to 3 targets from melee range. Probably the most basic ability I've ever seen, but to be honest, you're not really going to use it because while you're dual wielding, your number 3 ability will be replaced with a dual attack, which we'll be looking at a bit later anyway. So just to demonstrate that, it literally is a stab, and that uses quite a lot of initiative, such a rubbish ability, but oh well. So that's a few more there. Alright, so now I've equipped the offhand dagger. So this is our 4th and 5th abilities here. So the first one is Dancing Dagger, and this costs 3 initiative. Throw a dagger that cripples nearby foes and returns to you. So this one can be done from 900 range, so it's from pretty far away. So you're going to throw the dagger, it's going to put cripple and torment on the enemy, and it's going to bounce between a few enemies, and it's going to return to us on the way. So it's going to return to us, and it can bounce for a few extra enemies on the way. So that's pretty cool. So let me see if I can sort of line that up a bit with these guys. Oh, okay, it just bounces between all of them anyway. So as you can see, sticking Torment and Cripple, that guy as well, limping around. So that's really cool because that affects quite a few enemies as well. And our fifth ability here is Cloak and Dagger, which costs 5 initiative. Stab your foe and vanish in stealth, leaving them vulnerable. So this is going to do a decent amount of damage. It's going to put us into stealth. So for 3 seconds we'll be invisible to foes, and it's going to inflict vulnerability on the enemy. So that's a really cool ability, and also you could link it with your number 1 ability on your main hand weapon that you put with this, because if you remember on the main hands, our number 1 ability does have a stealth attack, so we could use a number 5 here to go into stealth, and then your number 1 you could use your improved stealth attack, which is pretty awesome as well. So let's try this out. Needs to be close range. Boom, there you go. In stealth, and then I can hit them with a nice stealth attack while they can't see me, so that's really cool there as well. Alright, so our final weapon we're going to look at is the offhand pistol. So this is going to be our last 2 abilities here. So first up we've got Headshot, which costs 4 initiative. Daze your foe with a headshot. So this is going to do a bit of damage. It's going to daze the enemy, so they'll be unable to use skills for a quarter of a second. So it'll be good for if you want to interrupt a skill as well. And it can be done from 900 range, so from pretty far away. So let's try this out. Oh, there you go. So a nice quick daze there. Quick ability. Nice and instant. Nice little interrupt there. Our second ability here on the offhand pistol is Black Powder, and this costs 6 initiative. Fire a black powder shot, blinding your target and nearby foes with smoke. So once again, 900 range, hits the enemy and has a radius of 180. For 4 seconds, it's going to pulse 3 times. It's going to hit up to 5 targets in the area and blind them for 2 seconds. Quite a few things there, so basically it's going to shoot at the enemy, and up to 5 targets in the area are going to take damage and they're going to be blinded as well. Let's try this out. Cool. Oh, okay, so you're blinding the enemy, and yeah, my bad. So the radius of 180 is around you, so you're going to throw the black powder down there. So basically you're going to shoot them and blind them, but the black powder is going to affect everyone around you. So it's pretty cool there, so you can actually affect enemies around you as well as ones from range at the same time. Alright, so that's all of the weapon skills for the thief. So the next thing I want to have a look at are the healing skills. Okay, so now I want to have a look at the thief's healing skills. So let's have a look. So it's our number 6 ability here, and we've got 4 to choose from. So the first one is Hide in Shadows, and this has a 30-second cooldown. Let's have a look at this. So this is a deception ability. So vanish in stealth and cure conditions. Then gain regeneration and heal yourself. So a couple of things there. So you're going to get stealth for 3 seconds, which is cool. So you're going to go invisible. You're also going to cure conditions on yourself, which is always useful to help you stay alive. And then you're going to gain regeneration, get the buff there, and get a nice big fat chunk heal as well. So quite a few things there. That's a pretty cool ability. So going invisible, curing conditions, getting regeneration and healing yourself all in one package. That's pretty awesome. So let's try this out. Boom. There you go. So I've gone invisible, I've got regen, and then you get a nice big chunk heal there as well, which is really awesome. So that's as healing skills go, that does quite a few things, so that's a really cool one there. Okay, so the next healing skill I wanted to have a look at is Withdraw, which is a trick ability and has a 25-second cooldown. Cure conditions, then roll backwards while healing and evading attacks. So you're going to cure conditions on yourself, which is good to help you stay alive. You're also going to roll backwards, which means you're going to evade for 3/4 of a second as well, so you can't take any damage. And you're going to heal yourself while you're evading. So this is pretty good if you need to heal yourself, you're in a bit of a sticky situation, and you're quite close to dying, because this allows you to remove conditions which are killing you, as well as not take any hits while you're healing as well, which is pretty good. So you don't want to get killed while using your healing ability. It's not great. Alright, so let's try this one out then. So, boom, there you go. So roll backwards there, cure conditions and heal yourself. So quite a few things in one. Really nice healing skill there. Alright, so the next healing ability is Skelk Venom. And this is a Venom ability and has a 30-second cooldown. Heal yourself, your next few attacks heal you. Alright, so you're going to have an initial self heal, a decent chunk there. And then you're going to get Scalp Venom on yourself, which is striking an enemy heals you. So that's your next 5 hits there. So you can hit quite a few enemies, 5 attacks, and what that's going to do is it's going to heal you for each attack. So although the initial self-heal isn't huge, if you then hit 5 attacks, and obviously the Thief does hit pretty quickly, so it probably won't take you very long to get 5 attacks. Overall, you're probably going to heal yourself for quite a bit more than just an initial self-heal you'd normally get. So if you're still in combat and you're not just trying to get away, and you're going to be doing quite a few hits, then this is a pretty good one there, as it has quite a lot of extra healing. Alright, so if I use that, you're going to get your chunk heal there, and then as you can see, strike an enemy heals you, so my next 5 attacks for the next 24 seconds are going to heal you there, so that's a really cool ability there, which links in with the Thief's ability to attack really quickly as well, which is awesome. Alright, so our final healing ability is a Signet ability. This is called Signet of Malice and has a 15-second cooldown. So if you don't know already, Signet abilities have a passive effect that is active just while being on your bar, and then a separate effect when you activate it. So the passive effect is that it heals you whenever you attack. So this is a buff that will sit on my bar as long as this is here, and whenever I attack I'm going to heal myself. I mean, that sounds really cool. Obviously it's not going to be a massive heal, it's only a small one. You're not going to get a massive chunk heal just for hitting an enemy. But as the Thief, you know, attacks really fast, gets a lot of hits in, it could add up to quite a significant healing, to be honest, if you're going to be hitting quite a lot. And, you know, that can be quite good, because it's basically just going to make your character just a little bit more tanky, because you're constantly going to be regenerating health. If you activate this ability, you're going to do an initial heal on yourself, which is, you know, decent. It's not, you know, as big as some of the others, because obviously this does have the passive ability, but it will be a nice chunk heal there if you really do need it to keep yourself alive. It's only got a 15-second cooldown, which isn't too bad, but as always with Signets, do bear in mind that while it's on that 15-second cooldown, you won't have this passive ability, so do think about that when you're activating it. So just to show you what it looks like when you activate it, boom, there you go, nice there. So that's obviously just going to give you a nice heal there, and like I said, the passive is gone for those 15 seconds while it's on recharge. Okay, so that is all of the healing skills for the Thief. So the next thing we're going to have a look at are the utility skills. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the utility skills for the Thief. So this is our 7, 8 and 9 abilities here. So we've got quite a few to choose from, so I'll work our way through them 3 by 3. So I'll start with the first few here. Obviously I'm going to show all of these off individually for you. So the first one we've got is a Deception ability. So this is Shadow Step and has a 50-second cooldown. So Shadow Step to target area becomes Shadow Return, which returns you to your starting point and cures 3 conditions. So this is a ground target ability. You can do it from 1200 range, so very long range. It breaks stun and it Shadow Steps you to the area. And then if you want to go back to where you were originally, then you can just press your number 7 again, and that will use Shadow Return to teleport back. So let's demonstrate this here. So if I target this over here, boom, and then I want to use Shadow Return, that makes me come all the way back here. So a pretty cool movement ability there for getting around the battlefield, which is obviously very important with the Thief, but it does have a 50-second cooldown, so do bear that in mind. Next up we've got Blinding Powder, which has a 40-second cooldown. Blind nearby foes and grants stealth to nearby allies. Okay, so this is going to be, you're going to throw down a smoke bomb effectively. It's got a radius of 240 around you. You can hit up to 5 targets, and it's going to blind any enemies around you and grant stealth to any allies around you. So that's really cool, to be honest. So negative effect on the enemy, so they're blinded so they can't see. Not only can they not see, but you are now invisible, and so are your mates. So that's pretty cool, and you can use like stealth abilities and stuff like that out of this. Boom, there you go, and I can see I can just come behind them and use a nice stealth ability there. So you know, it links in quite well with your other skills, so that's really awesome. Next up we got Smoke Screen, which has a 45-second cooldown. Create a smoke screen that blocks missiles and blinds foes. Alright, okay, so this is going to create a screen in front of me. It's going to blind enemies in a radius of 240, and it's going to block any missiles. So let's try this out. Boom, there you go. So it's going to, so anyone in the area is going to be blinded, and any missiles coming into the area, it's going to be blocked as well. So a couple of different things that does. Alright, so I've now equipped the next 3 utility skills, so let's have a look. So, another deception ability here, and it's called Shadow Refuge. And this has a 60-second cooldown. So this is create a pulsing refuge at the target area that heals allies and cloaks them in stealth. So this is a support ability. It's ground targeted, so you're going to put it on the floor. It's got a radius of 240. Anyone in that area, any allies that is, they're going to be healed, and they're going to be given stealth as well, and it's going to pulse 5 times over 4 seconds. So it's really good for any enemies in the area. Sorry, any allies in the area. So you've got a fight going on here. You can dump it down on your allies' heads, and it's going to grant some nice bonuses for them. So if I dump it down, there we go. So we've got stealth there, which is really cool, as well as healing the allies as well. So a couple of nice effects there to help your friends out in like a dungeon or group situation. Next up, we've got Scorpion Wire, which has it has a count recharge of 20 seconds and 2 counts. So you can use it twice before having to wait for it to come back, but between each count it will have 20-second recharge. So throw a Scorpion Wire and pull your foe towards you. So proper Mortal Kombat, get over here moment coming on here. So let's try this out. So it's going to do a bit of damage, and it's going to pull the enemy towards you. So right, if they stop killing all the enemies, then we might be able to do this. So there you go, this guy's come back. So boom, there you go, pulls them towards you. Obviously the golems go back to their original place, but just to demonstrate, boom, there you go, pulls them towards you, and then once the counts have run out there is a 20-second recharge between them, so do bear that in mind. Next up is a trick ability. It's called Roll for Initiative. So you can kind of guess what this is going to do. It's got a 50-second cooldown. So evade backwards to regenerate initiative and recover from crippled, chilled, and immobilized. So we're going to roll backwards. It breaks stun. It moves you away from the enemy. It evades attacks for 3/4 of a second. You gain 6 initiative, and you're going to be recovered from crippled, chilled, and immobilized. So any of these movement impairing effects. So there's quite a few cool abilities there that it does. So roll that off. As you can see, there you go. That's pretty cool there. So it's got, you know, quite a few uses in and out of combat. So that's really awesome. So let's swap to the next 3 abilities. That one, and that one. Alright, so another trick ability. This is called Haste. There's a 45-second cooldown. Gain quickness, fury, and swiftness. And it also breaks stun. So this is a pretty straightforward one there. So quickness, so your skills and actions are faster. Fury, more critical damage, and swiftness, increased movement speed. So chucks a bunch of buffs on you there, as you can see. Also breaks stun. So if you've been stunned in combat, you're going to break out of that, and you're going to have these nice buffs on you to make you a bit more powerful for a few seconds as well. Next up, we've got Caltrops, which has a 30-second cooldown. So scatter caltrops that bleed and cripple foes. This is going to stick these on the floor. They're going to cripple and bleed enemies for a decent amount of time. Radius of 240. And it lasts for 10 seconds. So that's quite effective if you want to dump these down and then maybe evade backwards, whack out a ranged weapon and just shoot a bunch of enemies from distance without taking any hits. That would be a pretty good idea. So let's try this out. Well, there you go. So bleeding and cripple. So as you can see, these caltrops on the floor there for 10 seconds. So bleeding and cripple to anyone in the area for 10 seconds. Nice big area as well. So that's a really effective skill that you can use there. Next up, we've got a Signet ability, and this is Assassin's Signet, and has a 30-second cooldown. So the passive ability on this Signet is that it grants increased power. As you can see there, that means you're going to be doing a little bit more damage while you have this on your bar. And then if you want to activate it, power is massively increased for a short duration. So you'll get this for 5 seconds. You'll get a big boost to power, so a big boost to damage for those 5 seconds. But obviously, for 30 seconds, you won't be able to use your well, you won't have the passive on your bar, but I suppose you won't care because you'll have that big boost. So if you really need that, use that, and then bam, you're going to be doing more damage for a few seconds there to enemies in the area. Okay, so we have a few more utility skills here, all of them Signet, so let's try these out. So first up we've got Infiltrator Signet, which has a 35-second cooldown. The passive on it is that it regenerates 1 extra initiative every 10 seconds. So you get an extra 1 of these back every 10 seconds. So obviously if you're using a lot of skills and you just want a bit faster initiative regen, this would be a good one to have on your bar. And the active ability is that it shadow steps to your foe. So it breaks stun, to be fair. You can do it from 1200, and it's a good one that you can use to shadow step to enter combat as well. So let's look at that. Boom. There you go. Nice way to get up close and personal to the enemy, nice and quick there. Next up we have Signet of Agility, which has a 30-second cooldown. The passive is that it grants increased precision. So that's good, so that's going to be increased critical chance for you there for as long as you have this on your bar. And then if you activate it, it's going to refill your endurance and cleanse conditions from nearby allies. So that's pretty cool there. So endurance gain, so it's going to bring back your bar here, your endurance, as well as removing conditions from allies around you. So it's a nice little support ability there. So boom, there you go. So that's just activating that. Obviously you'll lose your passive while it's on cooldown, but that's fair enough. Next up we've got Signet of Shadows, which has a 20-second cooldown. The passive is that it grants a 25% increase in movement speed. Alright, so that's cool. So as long as you have this on your bar, you're going to be going 25% faster. So if you know, doing a lot of exploring and travelling around, you could keep this on your bar, not necessarily activate it, and then woo, look, you're faster. So that's pretty cool there. And the active ability is that it applies conditions to foes near your target. Alright, so the enemy that you're targeting is going to stick conditions on the foes: blindness, weakness, vulnerability, and up to 5 targets on a 240 radius around your enemy. And you can do this from long range. So let's just try this out. So, boom. So there you go. So it sticks them on that enemy as well. Vulnerability, weakness, blindness, and anyone around them. So that's a pretty cool one there to stick some conditions on your allies. But obviously, while you've not got your 25% movement speed while you've got it on, so you're a bit slow, but you know, is what it is. Alright, so we've got a few more utility skills here, and these are preparation abilities. So these have a preparation part of it, which you use to prepare the skill, and after a few seconds you can use the skill again to unleash it. So first up we've got Pitfall. So yeah, prepare, Pitfall, and then Pitfall. I'll tell you what all 3 of them do first, because when it puts me in combat with one of the golems, you can't read the second ability, which is really annoying. So first of all, Pitfall. So mark your current area with controlling magic, readying the location to crush enemies when Pitfall is released. This has a 25-second cooldown. So it takes 3 seconds to arm, and you have 300 seconds to use it, and then it will run out after that time. So if you do unleash it and you activate the skill anywhere between 3 and 300 seconds after you've used it, you're going to unleash your Pitfall on the area, knocking down foes and delivering constant damage over time. So it's going to unleash it, so you're going to have initial damage, it's going to do pulse damage, to knock enemies down, put vulnerability on them, and it's going to hit up to 5 enemies within the radius. So that's a really cool ability there. Just to show you this next one, prepare 1,000 needles, and this has a 30-second cooldown. So mark your current area with inhibiting magic, readying the location to poison enemies. The same again, 3-second arm time, and then you have 300 seconds to use it. And when you use this, you'll unleash a hail of needles that immobilizes enemies on impact and poisons the ground, inflicting conditions over time. So this is going to do damage, it's going to do pulse damage, you're going to do immobilize, poison, bleeding, cripple, and up to 5 targets within a 240 radius. So a lot of really cool effects there. And this third one here, you've got Prepare Shadow Portal, which has a 60-second cooldown. So mark your current area with shadow magic, which can be detonated. So same again, arm times 3 seconds, duration 30 seconds. Unleash shadow magic at your prepared location, creating a one-way portal for you and your allies. Allies travelling through the portal gain stealth. Weaken foes around the portal's exit. Alright, so let's try these out then. So, first one, we've got Pitfall. So, place that down, and after 3 seconds, you can see that's placed down on the ground there. So obviously it may be that you place it down and you wait for someone to enter the area, say like this guy, and then boom, there you go, activated. Really awesome. It's pulsing, having those effects that we discussed. There's good vulnerability and everything like that, so that's really cool. Let's try out 1,000 needles. So once again, let's just place it here, so you have to wait a few seconds for that to come, and then boom, there you go. really awesome there. All those effects, cripple, bleeding, poison, and immobilise and everything. So a lot of conditions on that one, so that's really cool. As you can see, damage as well. And then we've got this one, so let's try this out, the Shadow Portal one. Okay, place that down, and then boom. So it creates this portal. Obviously you can do it from further away. You can use teleport in, and it grants you stealth. So I think there was a 5,000 range on that, so I could have activated that all the way back here to create a portal, which me and allies can go through, and then you would appear in the area, giving you stealth and a couple of effects there. So that could be a really cool ability that you could use in a group situation as well. Okay, so here we've got our final preparation ability here, and a couple more abilities. So the preparation one is Prepare Seal Area, and this is a 35-second cooldown. So mark your current area while stifling magic, readying the location to seal enemies in. So just like the other ones, it takes 3 seconds to arm, and you have 300 seconds to use it. So when you activate it, create an area that blocks projectiles and prevents enemies from entering or leaving. So that will affect up to 20 targets in the area. It's got a radius of 240, it lasts for 8 seconds. So it blocks projectiles from coming in, and enemies can't leave or enter. So depending on what you want to do, you might place it down to stop enemies from coming in, so you can still attack them from range, or you might want to lock them in so they can't get away from you. Either way, we've got your back. So let's stick this down here. A few seconds to arm, and then obviously you can do that. Boom, activate it, and we'll see if this guy can come in. Boom, oh look, he can't come in. Oh look, still can't come in. That's a pretty good example of how that works. Obviously, like I said, people can't leave as well, and projectiles can't come in as well, so it's quite a few cool effects there. So now we have a Venom ability. So this is Spider Venom, which has a 30-second cooldown. Poison foes with your next few attacks. So this gives you Spider Venom, which means your next attacks poison foes. So it looks like your next 3 attacks over the next 24 seconds will inflict poison on the enemies. And that's a radius of 240 around you. So let's try this out here. So right now I've got that. So if I start using this, boom, as you can see, as we're sticking poison on the enemies, and because that particular attack bounces between them, that means I can spread that poison between more enemies. So if you use that, it's pretty cool if you use some abilities that are going to hit a few people, because that's going to mean that you can spread that poison around over multiple targets. Next one here is Scale Venom, which has a 30-second cooldown. So Venom, apply vulnerability and torment with your next few attacks. A similar sort of thing, so you've got 4 attacks over 24 seconds, and you're going to inflict vulnerability and torment with those attacks. Let's try this out. Boom, 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 boom. There you go. As you can see, they've all got vulnerability and torment, and spread that out over all those people. So, yep, that's a really cool ability there as well. Alright, so we've got our final 2 utility skills here, both Venom skills. So let's have a look at them. So first up, we've got Ice Drake Venom, which has a 36-second cooldown. Chill foes with your next few attacks. So the next 4 attacks are going to inflict chill on the enemy. So let's try this out now. Pretty straightforward. There you go, as you can see, chilling all these enemies. Nice one. And finally, we've got Devourer Venom, which has a 40-second cooldown. Your next few attacks immobilize foes. So our next 2 attacks are going to inflict immobilize on the enemy. So boom, as we can see, immobilize those enemies there. So that can be used to inflict over a few targets. Alright, so that is all of the utility skills for the Thief. So the next thing I want to have a look at are the elite skills. Okay, so now I want to have a look at the elite skills for the Thief. So I've got a few to choose from here. So the first one is an elite deception skill, and this is called Thieves Guild, and has a 180-second cooldown. So it's call more thieves to support you in combat. So you're going to summon 3 thieves to come and help you for a duration of 3 seconds. So that sounds pretty awesome there. So let's see what this looks like in practice. So pretty simple, really. So boom, takes a few seconds. There you go, got 3 thieves. If I attack this person, as you can see, the thieves are going to start to attack the enemy. To be fair, doing a lot of damage there as well. So if I send them after this guy, look at that. They've all got different things. One of them's using looks like a sword there. The other one's got dual daggers. This one's got dual pistols. So it's like a few different thief combinations there, and they're just going to attack any enemies you attack, and do a decent amount of damage. So yeah, that's a really cool elite skill, especially probably if you're playing solo content as well, because you know they'll get in the way, sponge some of the damage and stuff like that for 30 seconds. So you can sit back and just spam a bunch of damage on top of the enemies. Alright, so next up we have an elite venom skill, and this is called Basilisk Venom and has a 40-second cooldown. So your attacks are unblockable and turn foes to stone. So Basilisk Venom lasts for 30 seconds, it can hit up to 5 targets in a radius of 240, and the stone duration is a second and a half, so we're going to turn some enemies to stone. So that does sound pretty awesome, so let's just try this out on this poor guy over here. So Basilisk Venom, nicely done. Boom. Oh my god, literally turns into stone. That's actually pretty cool. So yeah, that's that elite skill, pretty straightforward there. Can obviously affect a few targets, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we've got our third and final elite skill here, and this is an elite trick skill, and it's called Dagger Storm, and has a 90-second cooldown. So spin around, reflecting projectiles and throwing daggers that cripple and bleed nearby foes. You can move while spinning. Alright, so it's you create like a whirlwind ability. You can move around while you use it. It lasts for a few seconds, so you're evading for 3 seconds, so you're evading attacks, which is really awesome. You're going to be reflecting projectiles, so they won't affect you, and you're going to be throwing daggers as well, and you're going to be putting cripple and bleed on enemies. So it lasts for 4 seconds. So let's give this a go, shall we? So let's try this out now. If I press this, here we go. As you can see, spinning around, really awesome there, shooting out daggers which are going to bleed and cripple all enemies in the area. So that can be really effective there, especially if there's quite a few enemies around you. Okay, so that is all of the elite skills for the thief. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the unique profession mechanics. Okay, so now I want to talk about the unique profession mechanics for the thief. So this is what makes the thief tick. So there's quite a few different things to go through on this. So one of the things I've already mentioned is the stealth attacks. So that's your main hand number 1 ability being replaced whenever you're in stealth, having a more damaging ability. So you can link that up with your stealth abilities, which is pretty cool. So I've read those out and told you what they do, so I'm not going to go too much into that. The other thing I've touched on, but I'll go into a bit more detail here, is the initiative bar. This is obviously a finite resource here, which is utilised by your weapon skills. So your weapon skills on the thief don't have cooldowns. Your utilities and all these skills, they do still work off cooldowns, so do bear that in mind. But your weapon skills, so your 1 to 5, they don't have any cooldowns, and they instead have an initiative cost, which you can see at the top right there. That one having a cost of 5. So as you use those skills, you can see, use one that has an initiative cost. You can see there it utilises it, and then they fill back up. Comes back pretty quickly, to be fair, so it's not too much of a problem. But obviously if you just go in and you just spam a bunch of skills really quick, you're going to end up with 0 initiative, which means you're just going to be using your number 1 ability, which is the only one you can use without an initiative cost. So you do have to think about it a bit more. It's one of the reasons why people say the thief is one of the harder professions to play in Guild Wars 2, because you know you have to manage this a bit more, and it's not just going to be off cooldowns. So it's just something to bear in mind. But obviously if you still want to play as a thief, then you know it's still really awesome. You just got to learn to manage that a little bit better. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the steal mechanic here. So this is really cool, and it's totally unique for the thief as well. None of the other professions have anything like it. So your F1 ability stays the same. So this is called Steal, and it has a 30-second cooldown. So this shadow steps to the enemy and steals from them. You can do it from 1200 range. So you're going to shadow step to this enemy, and you're going to steal an item from them. It's not a physical item that goes into your inventory. It's an item that creates a skill, which is your F2 skill. So if I use that, it's going to shadow step to the enemy, it's going to steal something, and I can use that to use my F2 ability, which will have an effect on the enemy. Depending on what enemy it is, you can steal different things, so you can have different F2 abilities. There's loads of different ones that you can do. Normally it depends on the type of enemy. So for example, if you use it on like an Etin, you might get an Etin's club, which you can then use to hit it with, which will have an effect. So it does. So it's pretty cool. So it does make a difference on what you're attacking, and there are different options in PvP as well. So I recommend that you look that up and have a look at that. I'm not going to show off all of the possibilities now because it will take ages. I'll just demonstrate what it looks like on this guy here. So if I press my F1, I'm going to Shadow Step, still this, and I can use Blinding Tuft. So throw a handful of hair, vanishing in stealth, and blinding nearby foes. So you see they're pretty good effects. So I'm going to put blindness on the enemy and stealth, so I can then come in, use my stealth ability there. So so obviously I think it just randomizes different ones if you use it on a target column, which is pretty cool because it might give you a chance to try out some different abilities. But yeah, it's a cool way of getting into combat and then having another skill that you can use there as well, which is pretty awesome. Like if I just use that again, you see, there you go, tooth stab now, so I can stab them and make them bleed, and it doesn't have an initiative cost either of them, so you can use that just based on the cooldown of the Shadow Step really. So that's the stealing skill, so do try those out to see all the different combinations that you can have on that, which is really awesome. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the dual wield skills. So these are weapon skills, but I thought I'd go through them in this section because they are a unique thing for the thief. So what it is when you dual wield, so you equipped both a main hand and an offhand weapon, it's going to change your number 3 ability to a dual wield skill, which is defined by the mixture of the weapons. So I think there's about 6 different combos of main hand and offhand that you can use for the thief. So I'm going to equip those one by one just so I can quickly show off the dual wield skills to you. Okay, so first up I've equipped the dual daggers. So we've got dagger in the main hand and dagger in the offhand. That gives us the number 3 ability Death Blossom, which costs 5 initiative. So it's do an evasive attack over your target, striking nearby foes 3 times. Each hit causes bleeding. So we're going to jump over the enemy's head, hitting them a few times, doing damage, doing bleeding as well. Hits up to 5 targets, have to do it from melee range, and it also evades for half a second as well, so you won't be able to take any damage. So these are really cool abilities, these dual wield abilities, so you definitely want to utilise them. So let's try this out. There you go, as you can see I'm evading, doing damage, bleeding, and also, you know, moving around the battlefield as well, which is always useful with the thief. Okay, so now we've got the offhand pistol with the main hand dagger, and that gives us the dual wield ability Shadow Shot, which costs 5 initiative. So fire an unblockable shot at your foe, which blinds them, and then shadow step to them for a dagger strike. Alright, so a couple of things there. As you see, it's really mixing together the pistol and a dagger there by using both of them, which is really cool. So you're going to shoot them for an initial amount of damage, so it's unblockable, and you're also going to put blindness on the enemy. And then, yeah, we're going to shadow step towards them, so we're going to teleport there and strike them with our dagger. So it can be done from 900 range, so pretty long range. So let's try this out now. So shot, blind, so it's all pretty quick in practice. So it shoots them and blinds them, and then teleports to them and hits them with a nice strike, and then you can obviously follow that up with a bunch more melee hits there as well. So that's a really cool ability there. Okay, so now we've got the main hand pistol and we've stuck on the offhand dagger, and this gives us Shadow Strike, which costs 4 initiative. So stab your foe, then shadow step away and shoot them. Unlock Repeater for a short time, and Repeater is a further ability which costs another 2 initiative, and it's blast your foe with rapid fire from your pistol. So the first one, so we're going to stab them, we're going to shadow step away and shoot them. So that's going to do initial damage and then more damage with the shot. It's going to put torment on the enemy, and we can do it from 600 distance. It will put us between us and the enemy, and which we can then use Repeater, which is blast your foe with rapid fire from your pistol, which is obviously extra damage, extra bleeding, and that's done from long range. So let's try this out on this guy then. So, boom, we're going to hit him, shadow step away, use that, and then I can use Repeater, which is 5 shots, which is pretty cool there. So as you can see, that's a nice little combo there, which utilises both the pistol and the dagger, while getting some distance between you and the enemy, so you can use some of your range skills as well. Okay, so now we've still got the main hand pistol, but we've put a offhand pistol on as well, so dual wield pistols at the moment, and that gives us the ability Unload, which has a initiative cost of 6. So blast your foe repeatedly with both pistols. Gain initiative if all attacks hit. So it's going to hit 8 times, do a decent amount of damage there. It's going to give you extra initiative if all the attacks hit, and it can be done from long range. So let's have a look. So so as long as they all hit there, it's going to boost your initiative as well. So although it costs 6, you will get a little bit back as well, and it does quite a lot of damage there. Nice fast attacks, as you can see. So it actually knocks their health down quite a lot. Okay, so now we've equipped the main hand sword, and we've gone with the offhand dagger here, and that gives us the dual wield ability Flanking Strike, which costs 4 initiative. So evade and stab your foe. So it's going to do a decent amount of damage. It's going to hit up to 3 targets. It has to be done from melee range, and you'll be evading for half a second, so you won't be able to take any damage. And then this unlocks a Larcenous Strike, which costs an extra 2 initiative, and it's stab your foe and steal boons from them. Deals increased damage if it hits a foe with no boons. So yeah, an extra thing there, so it's a decent amount of damage there. It's going to steal boons off the enemy or do extra damage if they don't have boons. So it doesn't really matter whether they have boons or not, you're still going to have an added effect there, so that's pretty cool. So let's try out both those together now. So the first one, stab and evade, and then the follow-up ability there, bam, there, steal some boons as well, or do 20% extra damage if they don't have any boons. So it rolls round them, and then you can link it with the stab in the back as well, which is really awesome. Alright, so our final combination is still with the main hand sword, and then we've stuck an offhand pistol on there, and that gives us the last dual wield ability, which is Pistol Whip, which costs 6 initiative. So pistol whip your foe, stunning them, then slash repeatedly with your sword. Okay, so this needs to be done from melee range. It's going to hit the enemy and stun them for half a second, which is really awesome, and then you're going to repeatedly slash with your sword 4 times, doing a bunch more damage there. So it's a nice mixture of the 2 weapons. So let's try this out on this guy. So pistol whip, stun, and then bang 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 bang, bunch of hits with the sword there to do some extra damage. So let's just try that one more time, bang, and then slash and slash. So that's a big damage ability there. Really cool combination. So that's a good one to try out. So that is now all of the professional mechanics. We've been through the stealth attacks, we've been through the initiative and the management of that, we've been through the stealing skills, and also the dual wield attacks. So that's everything covered. So the next thing I want to have a look at are the individual specializations. Okay, so now I'm going to have a look at each of the 5 core specializations for the thief, and look at the traits within them to see how you can customize your character even more. So let's start off with the Deadly Arts specialization. So your first passive on this is Serpent's Touch, which means that stealing inflicts poison. While in the down state, your attacks apply poison. So a couple of things there. So whenever you use your steal ability, so your F1, you're going to inflict poison on the enemy as well. And then while you're in down state, when you're attacking people, you'll inflict poison as well. And your first choice is Dagger Training. So gain bonus power, which is increased when wielding a dagger. So just by choosing this one, you're going to have some extra power, so a little bit more damage, but you're going to get even more if you're wielding a dagger. So if you are using a dagger, this might be a good option for you. Next one is Mug. So deal damage and gain life when stealing. This attack cannot critically hit enemies. Okay, so whenever you steal, you're going to do a bit of damage and gain a bit of health as well, so that's pretty cool. But you can't critically hit enemies, so it sort of has a negative there as well. Deadly Ambition. Inflict poison when striking a foe with a dual wield attack. Gain increased condition damage. So just by having this on, you have increased condition damage, and obviously we were just having a look at the dual wield attacks, so this just buffs those a little bit and inflicts poison as well. So next passive is Lotus Poison. Weaken targets when you poison them. So that's pretty good, because all of these so far have been about inflicting poison, so this just means whenever you do inflict poison, you inflict weakness as well, so it just doubles up on the conditions. Next up, Even the Odds. So apply vulnerability when you steal. gain might when you hit with a stealth attack. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do on this one, which is going to be buffing your steal ability, so that's pretty cool. So you're going to also apply vulnerability when you steal if you choose this one, and then if you use one of your stealth attacks, you're going to gain might as well. Next up, Panic Strike. So immobilizing a foe poisons them. Striking a foe below the health threshold immobilizes them. So if someone's below 50% health, if you hit them, it will immobilize them. This can only be used once every 30 seconds, bear in mind, but it's still pretty cool. So you immobilize them, and whenever you immobilize a foe, you're going to poison them as well. So basically you're sticking poison on as well. So Revealed Training. So gain power, then gain extra power while you are revealed. So just by having this, you're going to have a little bit extra power, so a little bit extra damage. But if someone uses Revealed on you, which means that you can't stealth, you'll have even more power as well. So next passive is Exposed Weakness. So deal increased damage to your target for each unique condition on them. So 2% extra damage per unique condition. So unique condition means that if you have 10 stacks of bleeding, that's only going to be classed as one condition, and therefore only give you a 2% damage increase. Next up, Potent Poison. So poison you inflict has increased damage and duration. Other deadly arts traits apply additional stacks of poison. So this is just further buffing the poison. So if poison is something you want to focus on, then this is definitely the specialization for you. Improvisation. So use stolen skills twice. Recharge one random equipped utility skill when you steal. So that's pretty cool. So you can use stolen skills twice, and then whenever you use that, so recharge one random equipped utility skill as well. Last one, Executioner. So deal extra damage when your target is below the health threshold. So whenever the enemy is below 50% health, you do 20% extra damage. So that's quite significant, to be honest. Alright, so next up we've got Acrobatics. So the first passive here is Expeditious Dodger. So gain swiftness when dodging. So whenever you use your dodge ability, you're going to get swiftness as well, so your movement speed will be increased. First choice, you've got Instant Reflexes. So gain evasion when struck while below the health threshold. So health threshold is 50%, so whenever you're struck below 50% health, you're going to get 2 seconds where you evade all attacks. That can only be activated once every 300 seconds though, so do bear in mind you'll be waiting 5 minutes before you have that effect again. Vigorous Recovery. Gain vigor when using a healing skill. So whenever you use a healing skill, you get the vigor buff as well. You've got Pain Response. So gain regeneration and remove damaging conditions when struck while below the health threshold. So whenever you get struck below 75% health, you're going to remove those conditions and get some regen as well. But do bear in mind that can only be used once every 60 seconds. Next passive, Feline Grace. Gain vigor upon successfully evading an attack. So it gives you the vigor buff whenever you evade. Guarded Initiation. So remove conditions when striking enemy while your health is above the threshold. So whenever your health is above 75%, whenever your health is above 75% and you're striking an enemy, you're going to be removing conditions. Swindler's Equilibrium. So successfully evading an attack while wielding a sword or spear recharges still. Swords and spears deal increased damage. So if you're going to be using a sword as part of your build, that might be quite good because that buffs using that and makes those abilities recharge quicker. Hard to Catch. So break stun and refill endurance when you are stunned, dazed, knocked back, pulled, knocked down, synced, floated, launched, or inflicted with fear. So whenever anyone does any of those effects on you, you're going to break stun and refill your endurance. That can only happen once every 5 minutes. Next passive, Endless Stamina. The effects of vigor on you are enhanced. Gain bonus concentration. So you get extra concentration, and the effectiveness of vigor has gone up by 50%, which links in pretty well because a lot of these ones back here were to do with putting vigor on yourself. Assassin's Reward. Heal yourself whenever you use a skill that uses initiative. Heal yourself for each point of initiative spent. So this is a pretty good one. So you're going to be spending initiative all the time. So whenever you spend that initiative, so whenever you use your weapon skills, you're going to be healing yourself as well. So it's just another way of keeping yourself alive. Upper hand. Gain initiative and regeneration when you evade an attack. Whenever you evade, gain regen and gain some initiative. Don't stop. While you have swiftness, movement impairing conditions have reduced duration. When you gain swiftness, lose a movement impairing condition. So whenever you gain swiftness, you're going to lose those conditions, and it's also going to, reduce the length of those as well. So the next specialization is critical strikes. So the first passive is Keen Observer, which is critical hit chance is increased while your health is above the threshold. So whenever your health is above 90%, you're going to have a critical chance increase of 10%. First one here, Assassin's Fury. So gain might when you gain fury. So just adds an extra buff whenever you gain fury as well. Signets of Power. So signets gain reduced recharge time and an additional passive effect. So it tells you there all of the passive effects you get and reduces the recharge. So if you're using any signets along your utilities along here, that might be a pretty good option because that's going to buff them. Next you got Twin Fangs. Deal increased critical damage while your health is above the threshold. Gain bonus critical hit chance when hitting a foe from behind or the side. So whenever your health is above 90%, you're going to deal increased critical damage of 7%. And you're going to have a 7% critical chance increase if you attack enemies from behind or the side. So that just links in with the movement of the thief and just makes it even more beneficial. So the next passive is Unrelenting Strikes. Gain fury when you strike an enemy whose health is below the threshold. So whenever you strike an enemy whose health is below 90%, then you're going to gain fury. Sundering Shade. So stealth attack skills inflict vulnerability and grant fury upon successful foes. So if you're using the stealth skills a lot, that's going to just put a condition on the enemy and a buff on you, which is good. Practiced Tolerance. Gain ferocity based on your precision. So gain ferocity based on percentage of precision, that's 15%. Deadly Aim. Your pistol and harpoon gun attacks now pierce and inflict less damage. Alright, so if you're using a pistol, do bear in mind that's going to buff that a little bit. It means that they pierce, but it does reduce the damage a little bit there, so do bear that in mind. Last passive here, Ferocious Strikes. Gain increased critical damage against foes whose health is above the threshold. So any foes whose health are above 50%, you're going to get a critical damage increase of 10%. No Quarter. Landing a critical hit while under the effects of Fury, increase the duration of Fury. Gain increased ferocity while under the effects of Fury. So this just buffs your Fury even more, which obviously quite a lot of this specialization goes around that. And when you land a critical hit while you've got Fury on you, it increases the duration. Hidden Killer. Gain bonus critical hit chance while stealthed. This bonus lingers for a short duration after you've been revealed. Okay, so whenever you're in stealth, you're going to have critical hit chance increased by 100%, which is really awesome. And when you get revealed as well, you do get that bonus lasting for a further 2 seconds. Final one here is Invigorating Precision. So you are healed for a percentage of outgoing critical hit damage. This healing is increased while you're under the effects of Fury. Okay, so you're healed for 10% of your outgoing critical hit damage, so that's really good. It can help you stay alive, and then that will be doubled when you've got Fury active as well. Alright, so the next specialization is Trickery. So the first passive on this is Kleptomaniac. So stealing gives you initiative. So whenever you use your F1 stealing ability, it's going to gain 2 initiative. First one here is Uncatchable. So leave behind lesser caltrops when you dodge. So whenever you use your dodge ability, you're going to leave behind that, which is going to scatter caltrops that cripple and bleed foes. Burst of Agility. Use lesser haste when attacking a foe from behind or from the side. So whenever you attack a foe from behind or the side, you're going to gain quickness, fury and swiftness. So it's just some extra buffs for you there. Thrill of the Crime. When you steal, you and all nearby allies gain fury, might and swiftness for 10 seconds. So that just means, yeah, whenever you use your F1 ability there, you're going to buff you and your allies. Next passive is Preparedness. Increase maximum initiative by 3. So your bar down here has got an extra 3 just by having this specialization active, so that's pretty cool. Bountiful Theft. Stealing grants you and all nearby allies vigor. You rip boons from your target and grant them to nearby allies. So once again, buffing your stealing there, so it grants you and your allies vigor, and then you can also rip boons from the enemies as well. Trickster. Tricks gain reduced recharge and remove conditions. So if you've got any of those trick abilities on your bar here, you might want to use that, as that's going to make those even better. Pressure Striking. Enemies you interrupt are inflicted with torment. So if you use any of the interrupt abilities that we looked at earlier, then you're going to be inflicting torment on the enemy as well. This passive is Lead Attacks. Increases damage and condition damage per initiative spent. Still gains reduced recharge time. So per initiative spent, it's going to increase the damage and condition damage up to a maximum of 15%, and still has a 15% reduced recharge as well, which is cool. Quick Pockets. Gain initiative on swapping weapons while in combat. So whenever you use your weapon swap in combat, you're going to gain 2 initiative. Sleight of Hand. Stealing also dazes the target, reduces the recharge of Still. So yeah, whenever you use Still, your F1, it's going to daze the enemy, and you're going to reduce the recharge of Still by 20%. Final one here, Bewildering Ambush. So stealing also applies confusion, so whenever you use your F1, you're going to stick confusion on the enemy as well. Alright, so the final specialization is Shadow Arts. So your first passive is Concealing Restoration. So gain stealth when you use a healing skill. So whenever you use your number 6 skill, you're going to gain stealth as well. Merciful Ambush. When you apply stealth to an ally, they heal and revive over a short duration. Stealth yourself and your target when reviving an ally. So there's a couple of buffs there. So whenever you apply stealth, you're going to be healing as well. And whenever you're reviving an ally, it's going to stealth you and your target as well, which is pretty good because it means that less enemies will attack you while you're reviving them. Shadow's Embrace. Remove conditions periodically while in stealth. So you're going to remove one condition every 3 seconds whenever you're in stealth. Hidden Thief. Stealing grants you stealth. Deception skills gain reduced recharge. So you gain stealth whenever you use your steal ability, and if you have any deception deception skills on your bar at the bottom, they're going to gain reduced recharge. So your next passive is Meld with Shadows. Stealth lasts longer when it's granted by your skills. Gain increased movement speed while stealthed. So duration increase on stealth by 1 second when you put that on yourself, and increased movement speed by 50% while stealthed as well, so that's pretty awesome. Shadow Saviour. After completing a shadow step, you are healed. Nearby allies are also healed for a larger amount. So whenever you use a shadow step, you're going to heal yourself and allies around you. Leeching Venoms. So venom skills siphon life from struck foes. Gain stacks of spider venom while stealth. So that spider venom is poison foes with your next few attacks. So whenever you're stealth, you're going to gain poison attacks on the enemy as well. And venom skills siphon life, so it's just an extra effect there. If you've got some venom skills along your bar, that will just buff that. Flickering Shadows. Take less damage while revealed. So whenever you've got the revealed effect on you, which enemies can use, you're going to take 33% less damage. So the last passive here is Shadow Siphoning. Stealth attacks siphon health if they hit. So whenever you use your stealth attack, so it's your number 1 ability while you're in stealth, you're going to siphon the health from the enemy, which is going to do damage to them and heal you. Cloaked in Shadow. Gaining stealth blinds nearby foes. Blinding a foe siphons health from them. So whenever you go into stealth, you're going to blind foes, and whenever you blind foes, you're going to siphon health. So it's a nice chain of things there. Next up, Shadow's Rejuvenation. So regenerate health and initiative while in stealth. So yeah, whenever you're in the stealth, you're going to get health and initiative coming back. And your final one here is Rending Shade. So it still boons from enemies you strike with stealth attacks. Striking a boonless foe with a stealth attack inflicts fear on nearby foes. So whenever you use a stealth attack, you're going to steal boons from the enemy, and if they don't have any boons, then you're going to inflict fear on nearby foes. Alright, so that is all of the specializations and all of the traits within them. So you can obviously mix and match those, put 3 of those specializations on there to make your build even more powerful. So the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw together a quick thief build and do a little combat demonstration for you guys so you can see what it looks like when it all comes together. Okay, so I've thrown together a quick thief build. I've got the dual daggers here, and with my other weapons I've got the main hand sword with the offhand pistol. And I've got a nice mixture of skills here, different ones along here for us to try out. So let's see how this goes.
Entering combat. Swift and steady.
Alright, so that's a nice mixture of all of those thief abilities there. So I'm pretty sure that covers everything for the thief. So if you have any more questions about it, then leave it in the comments below and I'll get back to you. If you want to watch a video on any other class or elite specialization, then check out my channel, as I've pretty much done them all now. I've just got to do the elite specs for the thief and they'll all be done. I've also got a video which shows off all of the classes and elite specs in one shorter video, so you can check that out as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe to be kept up to date with my latest content, and I'll see you later.